I'm Billy Howarth, and this is my submission for Game Studio 2. Originally, my game was supposed to be an FPS wave clearance game set in a hyper-realistic cityscape. However, as you can see, my game has become sort of a horror, but more of a horror genre enemy clearance game. The object of the game now is still to defeat enemies, but rather than doing it in waves, it will be in levels, so that when all the enemies of one level are defeated, the next level will begin, and so on. The main difference here being that in a wave game, where you would just get waves and waves of enemies over and over until eventually the player died and would have to restart from the beginning, like start over completely. I now have it so that once the player kills all the enemies and beats a level, they then move on to the next level, but then when they die, they restart from their current level rather than restarting from the beginning. At this stage, I don't have that implemented. My game has also moved away from being hyper-realistic and will feature a lot of flat colour and be based heavily on lighting and sound. The reason I've chosen to do this is because my game has obviously now become more of a horror genre sort of thing, and sound and lighting I feel are the most important aspects of this genre. I haven't implemented any sound into my game yet, but as you can see, I am working on the lighting with the street lights and the whole spotlight thing going on, and I feel this will add to the overall scary feel of the game that I'm trying to achieve. My level layout will still be based in a city area and will feature a lot of dark alleyways. And the buildings that I will have will all be run down and boarded up, and the assets around the level will be based heavily on classic street props, such as things like dumpsters and street lights, benches and signs, things like that. So now comes around to the various blueprints I have implemented into the game. First we have the death menu widget, which is here. This is basically just when the player dies. This is what will appear on screen. This isn't related to the code, this is purely visual. This here is for when the menu pops up, then the player can actually click on the buttons and they will reopen the level, as in restart, or quit the game. Next we have the enemy. So under the enemy's blueprints, all we have is code that sets an enemy's health when they are hit and then destroys the actor when their health is equal to or below 0. This will be based on only the projectile, which is also shown here. So basically, the enemy's health is cast a projectile, so on overlap, the enemy's health will be reduced by 0.5, and then this one above will keep ticking until the enemy's health gets to 0. Currently set to 1, the enemy's health gets to 0, and the actor will be destroyed. Next we have enemy AI, and the only bit of code that this contains is the code to make the enemy chase the player. Then we have the enemy spawner. This allows enemies to spawn randomly in a chosen area that I have laid out to a maximum of 15 at once. Now this isn't the code that actually spawns the enemies, this just allows the enemies to be spawned in a certain area. We'll get to the other bit later on. This is the health bar, the code for the health bar, or this is the widget. So this is what will appear on screen. It's in the top left corner here. And then this next bit here assigns the health bar to the player. So obviously the player doesn't have any health yet, but it will be related to the player once the code is added in the first person character. Here we have the widget for the menu. Again, this is not code based, this is just what will appear on screen when the code is implemented. Here we have the resume, restart, and quit code, depending on whichever button the user presses. Certain things will happen, so the level will be reopened, as in restart, and the level will be quit, as in quit, and then obviously a resume, where the widget is removed, and the game will go back to being unpaused. Next we have the projectile. All that's in the projectile is the fact that when the actor overlaps with anything, the actor is destroyed. Next we have the code that I have implemented in the first person game mode. This is so that as soon as the level starts, this is the thing that actually spawns the enemy. So as soon as the level starts, it will get all the actors of the class enemy spawner, which are the enemies, and then it will spawn an enemy 1 per second up to a maximum of 15. And then finally, we have the first person character, which has a few things here that I've done myself. We have the cast health to the player. We have the health of the player, and I have it so that when the enemy overlaps the player or touches the player, then the player's health will go down, and then when it reaches 0, it will create the death menu widget on the viewport, which pauses the game, and then it gives the player the chance to then click either restart or quit. This next piece of code creates the health bar on screen when the game is started. So it just means that when you open up the game, the health appears. It's added to the viewport. And then this piece of code here is when P is pressed, it pauses the game and the menu is brought up on screen. And it also has code to show the mouse cursor so that when the menu appears, the game is paused and the mouse cursor shows so that the player can actually click to do any of the things in the menu.